Welcome, friends. This is interesting times. Is it weird to say friends?
Matt.
You laughed at that.
No. It was great. I just wasn't expecting it. It's like, here we are. We're in a room.
It was like a tense laugh. It was an uncomfortable laugh.
Oh no, I feel very comfortable. I feel like there's a roaring fire here. That's why. Hello, friends.
It's like a 1930s mystery broadcast or something.
Yeah, cozy. We're very cozy. Gideon and I are both sipping hot cocoa.
With summertime hot cocoa, huh?
It's good. We just turn up the AC.
Do you think there's an iced hot cocoa that exists anywhere where people like drink that during the summer?
I feel like there have been. I've seen that as a drink.
I bet in LA they would have that.
Yeah,
more
they would
than
definitely
New York.
have that.
Yeah.
But it also seems like a Starbucks thing or something, right?
You think that existed at Starbucks?
I feel like it could have. Do you think? Here's my question: do you think people ever like ask for cold brew heated up?
Oh,
Does that
funny.
happen? Is that a thing?
That doesn't make any sense. But yeah somebody asked for it.
It could though. Right? Somebody ordered cold brew the other day, and I was like, okay, wait, you want that hot? And I was like, wait, what am I, an idiot? I'm an idiot. But then I was like, maybe someone does that.
What? Does it taste different when it's cold brewed? I guess.
I feel like it is different.
Yeah.
I'm on the fence about cold brew. Do you drink coffee?
I do. I love coffee, but I'm not an iced coffee person. I only drink iced coffee if it's like 100 degrees, like 3 days in a row. Then I'm like,
Wow.
I gotta get some of that.
Wow. So even if you're outside and it's 85 degrees, you're still walking around with a hot coffee?
I think, yeah. I mean, I'll like 9 times out of 9.1 times drink the hot coffee, even if I'm in like, Texas or whatever. Just because I feel like that's part of like the whole effect of it, like waking you up, like the hot, the steam,
it's like a little painful.
Yeah, and it's just like the first thing in the morning. But I suppose cold coffee could do that too if it's really cold and you take a drink.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's the caffeine, right? But that's interesting.
I remember those Dunkin' Donuts had those like kind of frozen drinks a while back. What were those called? Like Dunkachinos?
Oh, yeah.
Terrible name, but it was they were kind of refreshing. I kind of get that a little more than just like coffee with ice cubes in it.
Okay, yeah, like a slushy.
It's almost like a slushy, but it's like caffeinated. And it has milk,
no, that sounds good.
in it.
Every once in a while I do that on the weekends.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll do that this weekend.
That's your little treat to yourself.
I know. That's
after
like
all the like hard work you're doing with your family and everything else and all the anxiety of the world on your shoulders, and then you're like, okay, one slushy coffee that's going to make everything all right.
A little treat. You got to give yourself a treat. Man.
You do. It's a pat on the shoulder.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't enjoy anything. Anyway.
We'll get to that's another show.
We'll get to that. That's another show. Yeah.
Anyway, it's been a while since we've had a show, and there's so much has happened. So we do want to like talk about some of the monumental changes that have been going on with the campaign.
That is true. We talked about Biden dropping out.
I think we did.
I think we talked to. Well, I don't know. Had Harris come on yet?
I think he had just dropped out when we had our last show, maybe. And
okay, so it was already pretty clear, probably that it was going to be Harris.
I think it must have looked like it was going to be her, but I'm not sure how clear it was because there was all that talk about having a contested convention.
Right, it was still being discussed.
And we talked a lot about the potential running mates too, and I don't think we mentioned probably 5 or 6 possibilities, and I don't think we even mentioned Tim Walz, did we?
Nope.
And even if we did, we probably mispronounced it Tim Walz.
Yeah, we did. So it's Walz?
I think it's Walz. Like, yeah.
I like Waltz, but I guess Walz is kind of fun too.
Yeah. Right. What's not to like? Yeah. And anyway, so I guess we should talk about that choice because it was a slight surprise to me it seemed like Josh Shapiro had a lot of momentum. And there were all these other names. I was kind of like hoping for Gretchen Whitmer, because I just thought 2 women would like make people's heads explode. And Buttigieg is so great.
Yeah, I think everybody loves Buttigieg, man.
He's pretty great.
He is pretty great. But, I mean, look, everybody loves this guy. And he seems like sort of the right thing to add to this ticket, too. This, like, you know, I don't know, Midwestern family dude. Everybody's making all these jokes about him being the prototypical, like, dad.
Yeah, or uncle or something. Yeah, he is kind of very dad-like, yeah.
Yeah, to, like, everybody, you know, so.
Right.
It's, no, he seems great. It seems like a really excellent choice.
And I guess in talking about why it's a good choice, we may want to discuss what it was that she needed. Like, what was missing from her that she felt like she had to add that Midwestern dad guy? Was it like a fear that there were so many racists out there that she needed some, like, white guy that just felt like some Midwestern white guy? Because I always feel
that's
like
probably part of it.
I feel like
it's
that's
not the
a
bald
big
racists, but they're racists, you know, and don't realize it.
Right, unintentional
like
racists.
we all are to an extent.
Absolutely,
you know?
And you probably should admit these things rather than like suppress it.
Right. Well, yes. I mean, I think it's one of those things where you have to just engage with it and keep it in mind and just realize, you know, racism is a systemic problem. But, you know, it's often the people who won't even admit that it's a systemic problem who, you know, have the biggest issues with it, which is always curious to me because I feel like admitting it's a systemic problem kind of takes the pressure off you slightly.
Yeah.
You know?
Totally.
But I don't know. Anyway.
No, I totally agree with that. And I remember I worked on some random pilot with Patrice O'Neill, the very funny black comedian, and he was always like, he didn't want people to like try to get rid of racism. He just said it was like impossible. He was like, you have to just admit that it's there, otherwise it's going to come back, you know?
Right. Yes, yeah, I mean, it's like that I call it the Michael Scott school of ending racism. And it's like, I don't see colors. You know?
Right.
You could be purple. And it's like,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
I mean, I actually, because I feel like I was growing up and it was really sort of that kind of thing. Like, it doesn't matter what color you are, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And then it sort of shifted and more acknowledging racism. But I do think sometimes we get a little too far away of like, hey, we're all the same. So I do hear that that argument somewhat.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I agree with that. It's totally important. We need to recognize it's always going to be there. It's in us. It's systemic. We need to challenge it and just remember and think about it, you know?
Totally. And that whole color blindness thing is like, if we don't see it, that's not really the problem. It's when there are some people who will always see race and always be racist.
Right.
So even
the ones who hardest, will say that they're not, you know?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things, just to get off the VP thing for a second, I do think that the Harris campaign has done a good job of anticipating these types of things, like what will be the issues and how do we head them off from the start.
Well, she also is this sort of coastal woman who got married later in life. Well, not that later in life, but, you know.
Yeah.
And never had kids.
Yeah.
And as a stepmom, of course, which, you know, certainly counts, but it's just so that was something that's... I know it doesn't, but you know what? It's also like, who cares about the Republicans?
Exactly.
But it's more like the liberals who are also sort of stealthily sexist, stealthily racist underneath it, even though they don't think they are.
And the independents, there probably are like a bunch of independents.
I guess so. I wonder about the whole independent thing because it's like, are we going after independent voters anymore, or is it all about bringing out the base? I just don't know that it's a thing anymore. Who are these people? Who are these people?
Well, that's the thing. It's such an umbrella term, and they're obviously a heterogeneous group. It's not one type of person, but I'm sure some of them are just like some traditional people that are unintentionally sexist, who might judge like a coastal person.
Who might, yes.
You know, where they're like, okay, now she has like some white guy who looks like my dad, who was a football coach, and that even psychologically makes someone feel better, whoever that is.
Yeah, it's just like,
I think she really is doing a good job, like, heading off these, like, fears and these anticipated problems in ways that, like, Hillary Clinton was, like, slammed so hard for her, like, cackling laugh, and, like, Kamala Harris, the team knew that, like, they were going to go after that laugh, and then they were like, let's just do this whole joy thing, and be smart. Like, let's make it a positive, and, like, now everyone's thinking, why is Trump never laughing, you know?
Yep. It's pretty smart. You're right. It's kind of amazing. I wonder if she had a team who was preparing for like a year, months
That's
before.
Really interesting.
I guess you've seen Veep before, so I guess they're always kind of preparing.
I never watched Veep, believe
we
it or
talked
not.
about this.
I never did, but I should.
I was not that into it when it was first out, but I have just watched it over and over since then.
Apparently everyone's watching it now, which is really funny.
It's good. It's so dirty.
I should watch it, and I know a few people in it, so I should watch it
too. Yeah, Matt Walsh is hilarious,
and also Brian Husky, isn't he in it?
Oh, Husky
wasn't he in it? Yeah,
too. Yeah. Is Zach Woods in it too?
Just a little bit, he? Maybe.
So there's quite a few other people, but yeah.
So I mean, I think this pick is brilliant. It's a good pick, and I didn't expect it, and I was like, "What, nope. Tim Walz?" And I remembered him a tiny. I remember him a tiny bit from all the stuff with George Floyd and the riots in Minnesota, and he seemed super bright, but I didn't really get a sense of him. So when she picked him, I was like, really? Not Josh Shapiro, who's like a superstar, apparently? I don't even know, but...
He seems good. He
seems good, but then I've heard that there's like some things, maybe some skeletons in the closet.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, anyway, it's a good pick. He seems great, and he's gonna do really well in the vice presidential debate.
Yeah.
And they always say that vice presidents don't really help. So you just don't want someone who hurts you.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Do no harm.
Wreck that guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Vance.
Vance is a mess.
Yeah, JD Vance. Yeah, he's going to wreck him. Yeah, Vance is a mess. I don't know. Yeah, okay, so have you seen this bit of footage traveling around that everybody's making fun of him? He's at like a campaign event, like one of those very normal things, and he's talking to people behind... A donut
store, right?
Yeah, he's talking to people behind the counter, and he just has like no banter. He just asks everybody, how long you worked here? And they're like... 6 months. Oh, I started in July, and it's just like...
and he's like, good. That's his response. Yeah. He's like, good.
Like, have you not...
How about you?
Practiced at all? Like, I don't know how to do that sort of thing.
It's so pathetic.
Or just talking to people that, like, that's a big part of politics.
I mean, if you're applying to be a correspondent on The Daily Show, they'll send you out to talk to people before they hire you. So you think, really? Well, you know what I mean? I'm just saying that, like, Trump didn't even think to, like, have him practice.
I know. Or even now, though, shouldn't somebody have, I don't know.
It's really bad. Well, one thing that makes me think is, like, I wonder if he really wrote that book. Like, he doesn't seem...
that's interesting.
Because the book, and again, I don't really remember it that well, but I remember it was pretty well written. So he must have had some ghost... Maybe he's a talented writer.
Yeah, I mean, I doubt he's a total idiot. I mean, because he did go to Yale Law School, right? Like,
true.
Not that necessarily means that much, but he may just be socially awkward.
But if you write, really... Can you write flowery, like, really well thought out stuff and not speak... at all like that? Is that a thing? I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe some people
are just super awkward in person.
Yeah, and they just like can do it when they're writing it down.
Okay, but if it was like really beautifully written, that's a sort of different.
It's
story.
pretty. Maybe I should look at it again, but it was well written. So seeing his like lack of interaction, It does
well,
make
he's changed so much.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess there's a certain amount of at least emotion in that book, right?
Yeah, true.
And then I guess he sort of lost that and became this Trump follower.
Right. And so did you see the any of the convention this week?
Bits and bobs.
Yeah.
Bits and bobs.
Yeah. Any impressions? Yeah, I saw almost all of it.
Yeah, I thought it was all right. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, do you think do you think she's gonna win?
I think she stands a good chance. I think maybe people are a little bit too, not nervous anymore. I think they're
that's
like
a worry.
might be believing a little too much that she's all good. But I mean, it seems like she's got the real popularity. She's got people excited, but I still think this can be super close, and
right.
You never know how it could go.
The one thing, the way campaigning works these days, you can just say the same speech over and over pretty much. And like just have like teleprompters.
Yeah.
So there's less of a chance of like faux pas. I remember back in the day, like in the 80s and the 90s, everyone always worried if candidates would say faux pas,
Right.
And like even Biden like used to say all these faux pas and make all these mistakes, and it was almost part of his charm. But now I feel like campaign staffs can kind of protect candidates from that. Maybe not Trump's side, but I kind of do think they can control this in a way that maybe
I feel like somebody had to step down. Maybe it was a VP candidate or something, and they talked about brainwashing. They said maybe they referred to themselves.
I'm trying to remember that. Well, I remember the what's his name? The doctor who did the Scream.
Oh, right. Dean.
Howard Dean.
Yeah.
Like, that was sort of seen as a faux pas. That was like...
That ruined him.
It
what
ruined
an insane thing.
And Trump is much weirder and worse on a daily basis.
Yeah, I don't think it's the same thing anymore.
It's not.
It's just so much more that we see them be weird and awkward so much more. So yeah, maybe this is why we should go easier on JD Vance. But because it could have just been I don't know. He was tired. He wasn't thinking well.
But Howard Dean was kind of in the lead. Like he was doing really well at the time. So that's when you can have those like moments where you can fall.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I just don't know if those moments happen anymore.
I mean, I think it can happen if you're not known. I think once you're known, it becomes you're everything's kind of baked in already. Yeah. Like with Trump, people know he's going to say crazy shit. But I think with Vance, because they don't know him, it can hurt him more because it's like defining him.
Right. Yeah, and he also just gets so much attention. We'll see if that happens going forward, but he's gotten a ton of attention, and I wonder if that's just about the rollout or if he's just, I don't know, so awkward and weird that, and Trump is like, we know his whole shtick already, that there's going to be a lot of attention on him going forward.
Yeah. I would go out on a limb and say that I actually think this is going to be Harris by a fairly large amount of electoral votes.
Oh, really?
Yeah, okay. I think, because I really do think, and we don't know how the convention has helped her in the polls. We'll find out soon. But I think she's going to win Georgia and North Carolina.
Wow, okay.
So
then she doesn't even need to worry about, like, Michigan or something.
I mean, she needs all of it, but I do think she can, like, Trump has a much harder, path to victory.
Right, 'cause she has the two routes to go.
She could lose Pennsylvania and then get Georgia and North Carolina and win.
She's probably going to win Pennsylvania.
I think she will. Yeah.
They normally, I think, almost there's only like one time or something that Dems have lost it in the last many decades.
Right.
But so I think she'll win that. I mean, it's more those upper Midwest states that were the risk for her and for Biden, I think, the Wisconsin and Michigan in particular.
Wisconsin's a big one. I think Harris.
But now that she has the route through the South, because I think now that it's Harris instead of Biden, I think she could win Georgia again.
I think she will win Georgia. I think she will win Michigan too, because I do think they have a large African American population. I think the Muslim population probably won't be as hard on her as they were on Biden with the whole Middle East.
It was a
stuff.
big thing because I was reading about it. It's like 100,000 people or over that voted uncommitted in Michigan. And
Minnesota too.
Trump won by like 10,000 in 2016.
It would have been a big
deal. It's like maybe not it's a drop in the bucket in some ways, but yeah. So, but she might be okay now. Yeah.
I think she's going to win. She might get over 300 electoral votes. My prediction.
Yeah. Okay.
So we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah.
Anything else?
Yeah, well, I was following the whole, did you follow there's so much news about the people protesting the war in Palestine, Israel, and, she sort of tried to placate them, but I don't know, man. Did you see her speech in that? I thought it was pretty disappointing, that part.
I mean, I think it's really hard. I think they have all the polls. So
I guess that's it. Yeah, I guess they
if they, I think they're also. I'm a little it's hard for me to comment on that. I don't know what else they could have done. I think they had to be super careful not to put not that she is pro Hamas or something or would be perceived, but I do think the Republicans are so shitty that even if she had some speaker. Yeah. That would I think she could just be very easily painted as a terrorist sympathizer, Right. I mean, it's so horrible, and God, they should not fricking do that. It's so despicable, and I shouldn't even, it's so sad that that's where we are.
I know.
But I'm sure
I'm honestly really depressed by it, just mainly because, so many people that you think of as, the good guys are just kind of I don't know. You can't they won't. I don't know. I'm just what's going on? What are we doing, guys? Come on. And then there's just this whole thing of if you, say, Israel's committing horrific war crimes, we should stop giving them weapons. It's you support Hamas, you're anti-Semitic. It's what? Right. No, Hamas is evil. But also, my question is, why the hell have they not finished off Hamas yet?
I don't think
they're
they
dragging it out.
No, I don't think they can really finish.
Well, to some extent, I agree, because of course they're creating more people who are radicalized. So in that sense, yeah. But in the sense that they were 25,000 of them at the beginning of on 10/7, and now we're talking about 11 months later, and they're stuck in an area the size of Omaha, and they're still. I think it's because of the way they're fighting the war. They're not holding land and replacing people who control the land with, new leadership. I mean, obviously the Israelis would control it, but they'd have some kind of local control on the ground. Anyway, it's just that's why I think it's going to go on for forever, and it's not gonna. It's definitely who knows? But I hope I'm wrong. But I feel it's definitely not going to end until after the election. And I almost feel is this crazy?
It sounded
but I feel
they might be close to some sort of 6-week ceasefire deal, but
I don't know. But why would Netanyahu do that?
Well, I think it sounded like he was okay with the deal, but then people were saying he was okay with the deal because he knew Hamas would never accept it. But I don't really know the details, so I can't even say. But
anyway, it's depressing.
Yeah, it's definitely depressing. I mean, it's bad, but I think the fact that there are hostages still in Gaza makes it really easy to defend Israel, because as horrible as it all is, and it is horrible, as long as the hostages don't get released, it doesn't 100% make sense to like end, to end the defense. But I agree, there's like tons of war crimes happening probably. It appears that way for sure.
Yeah. I think Netanyahu could have made a deal like months ago. I mean, he may have to let free a lot of the Palestinian prisoners that they have been holding.
They are willing to do that, but I don't know.
Really? I thought they weren't, because that's the thing. They offered him a deal like right at the beginning that said like release all these people and we'll release the hostages.
Well, I think Hamas was like, we need to end the war, and Israel was always like, we'll give you like 6 weeks. So, but I feel like once it ends after 6 weeks.
Yeah,
I think once things end, once you break the war for 6 weeks, I think you have pressure on both sides to not start fighting again, so that might end the war.
Yeah.
I don't know.
How much is Hamas even fighting at this point, though? Like,
I'm sure they are. I don't know.
I just don't know.
But
how do they have like weapons anymore? Like, they haven't.
I
like,
know.
How are they,
That's a good question. I have no idea.
Like that aspect of the whole thing, like, doesn't make sense to me. Like, in D-Day to VE Day was 11 months, and the Allies conquered most of Europe, and we're talking about this tiny little space. Like, what? And that's been leveled. I don't know. I don't know why that's like not discussed. Like, what happened? Why is Hamas around? Like, they should be. I'm totally for it. Like, come on.
I think there's just so many people that are part of Hamas that you just can't.
I mean, maybe the
them.
U.S. intelligence said it was like 25,000 people, but that was the fighters.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, Israeli intelligence said it was 30,000. So, I don't know. I mean, that's not that many when you have a population of 2 million. I don't know.
True. Well, it's all like everybody's living on top of each other there, so it's hard to like find them and pick them out from the the suffering civilians. Right.
I don't know, but I mean, at the very least, they shouldn't be in control anymore. Like they're around.
I know.
But not as a like potent military force, because
I'm
the
sure
idea that you're going to kill them all. This
Yeah.
isn't like. I mean, it's just like, how could they not be? Like, how are they have any power at all?
Yeah,
it just doesn't
it's a good
make
question.
any sense to me. Like, what's going on here?
Yeah, no, I don't understand it either.
I know. I wish they would let, reporters in at least.
Well,
like
that's part of
press,
the problem.
But they won't let them in.
Well, and so many of them have been killed, which
I know
is horrible.
They killed so many. I mean, it was really disproportionate. So they're like targeting them.
I would not be surprised. Yeah.
I think there's just like there were so many like oops.
I know. It's really
so many oopses.
That's really fucked. It's all fucked.
Yeah, it's bad. I don't know. It just makes me less excited to vote for Kamala. But what are you going to do? This is the world.
I don't know. There's very little she can do. Also, she can't really like change. Like, she can't really like say her policy. She's still the vice president, so she does.
I guess so.
Biden
should change it too. They should at least enforce U.S. law.
He'll never change it. Yeah. And then
I just don't know. It's like, why can't we don't enforce U.S. law in terms of like what's it called, the Leahy law? Do you know about that?
No.
It's basically like if certain it wouldn't be like unilaterally cutting Israel off. It would just be like the units who have committed war crimes, we cut them off. And that's the U.S. has done that, in with a lot of countries. It's happened before.
Can you figure out who has committed war crimes? Yeah.
Well, I mean, sure. I mean, maybe there's evidence, there's testimony, there's.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, I guess it's questionable, but it has happened in the past, so they must have determined it somehow. I guess.
Right.
Man.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's okay.
It's like one of these things. I feel like you can't talk about it, but here we are on air talking about it.
That's okay. Yeah, and
thank you.
Anytime. Yeah, of course. Yeah. It's a shit. It's total shit. It's just
total shit show. I mean, but also, I just think Israel's not making itself safer at this point.
Well, it's a tough. I don't even feel qualified to know the answer to that. I mean, they basically killed the head of their political wing. Hamas's.
I mean, that's great.
But then they replaced them with like the biggest terrorist on their team. So it's
Right.
Hamas is clearly would do October 7th or whatever 8 times. It's so clear they would. So that's part of the problem too.
I mean,
as
it
much
is,
as Israel is fucked.
You have to look at the reality of what preceded that, and where that came out of.
I don't know. I would not.
It's never justified because just like Israel's war crimes aren't justified against civilians, neither are Hamas's. They can never be justified. But people act like it came out of nowhere, and it's just like the Israeli killed hundreds of people.
There are lots of countries that have oppressed
rape and murder.
Yeah, there are a lot of countries that have oppressed people that don't resort to like terrorism and killing innocent civilians. So I don't know. You can look at. It's like violence, though. If you're getting hit with violence, you shouldn't be shocked that people are fighting back. It's not that I'm shocked, but I
just don't know how we can expect them not to.
But I wouldn't look at Hamas as like being rational, like rationally.
Then why do you think they did it then?
Hamas, because they want to destroy Israel.
Right, but why do they want to destroy Israel?
Because they hate Jews. They're taught it from the age of 2.
But
do you feel qualified to know this? What do you mean why? Because they're assholes.
Because you have to look at the history, though. It's
I don't know,
like
man.
People are assholes. Like that's. Like there's a history there. Why this is everything that led up to this.
Yeah, but I don't think like. That's like saying the Nazis were like, look at the history of like Jews doing well in Germany after the Treaty of Versailles.
But the Jews didn't attack the Nazis.
The Nazis felt threatened by them, and then they put them in ovens. So
yeah, but I think that has nothing. The Jews didn't attack the Nazis. The Nazis attacked the Jews. If there's any.
But there's a lot of like complicated history. I wouldn't like necessarily.
Yes, that's
the Nazis took the Palestinians at certain point were very enamored by the Nazis and took that side of. World War II. It is true.
It was like a tiny group. And you know what? There were Israelis, too, that were making deals with the Nazis. So it wasn't like, I don't know. Like they had some contact with the Nazis. So did America. So did
I know.
UK. Like,
but none of
people met with the Nazis. And everybody's oh, a Palestinian met with the Nazis. And it's like every other country that met with the Nazis.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, whatever. But like,
I don't excuse anybody dealing with them.
I guess so, but it's not like a justification for all the crimes that came after that. I don't know.
I don't know. Some of the cracking down, was probably justified based on being attacked. It's hard to know without living there. So,
I don't know. Just got to read about it, I guess. But yeah, of course, can't know everything.
If you're attacked over and over and over, you are going to be nervous about, because Israel has been attacked over and over and over.
But like what preceded it, though? What you just said sounds like you could also be saying that about the Palestinians, right?
Well, both sides have had a rough history, for sure.
Sure, but like, I don't know. It's just. I don't know. I just feel like people have this expectations like, well, of course the Israelis are going to strike back, but we don't think that the Palestinians are going to strike back. Look at what's going on in the West Bank constantly. It's just like, it's just like this long history.
Horrible.
You think about how nuts everybody went about, rightfully so, about the rapes that Hamas committed on 10/7, but barely cover like the rapes that happen now and that led up to 10/7. It's just
what rape?
Israel has a long history of like raping Palestinian men in prisons and a long history of like horrible torture and stuff. It's just I just get so upset about the like I guess the what is it like the hypocrisy of it. Like, can't we just say it? Like, these crimes are wrong no matter who is doing them. I don't know. That's what like just hurts my heart and mind. And I really feel like I have to stop reading the news, but because it literally like hurts my body.
It is painful. Stuff. Yeah,
it's so painful. It just is. And learning more about the history and then what's going on now, and of course, the horrors of October 7th is just, to think about what those people went through with your family and your loved ones and your children. It's just...
I think there's also a really, big history of extremists on both sides, like scuttling peace, I think killing, Rabin, the extremists on the right in Israel, murdered him because... They were getting close to peace. I wonder if that was going
anywhere, though. I question. Do you think that was
going
anywhere?
I don't know. I mean, I think the killing definitely hurt whatever was happening.
Maybe something would have changed. The thing is, they had never, acknowledged that Palestine has the right to exist, And then even the ideas that came up were just, were never, for a sovereign state or even, a path to a sovereign state. So I don't know. If you're not getting to that, I don't know how you're ever going to get to anything. I think at very least...
There were a few moments where it was pretty close, but...
Yeah, but if you look at the plan, it was just I guess they could accept this, but they still wouldn't have a state, I mean, I wish they had accepted it and never fought back. Absolutely. You never know. Then maybe Israel would have stopped fighting then. Who knows? But I don't know. I mean, they instantly after that, had all the... Well, as early as right after 1967, they started moving in all those... what are they called?
Settlements.
Yeah, settlements.
Yeah.
Colonies. Yeah,
problematic.
I can't say that, but yeah. Anyway, I'm sorry if I don't mean to upset you. But
No, it's not upset. It's just it's impossible to solve. It's just not.
Yeah, I mean, and don't get me wrong. I also think I understand, why, I don't know, Jewish, trauma, generational trauma. It, has a reaction maybe to,
right?
Being attacked that way. That it makes sense,
of course.
But I do feel for me,
any country Jewish, would have attacked after something like October 7th.
Oh yeah,
no country would have let that slide.
Oh, of course. Yeah, no question. I mean, I don't know that we would have been propping up Hamas beforehand. Hopefully not. But I suppose we sort of did that in Afghanistan too, and it came back to bite us. So, yeah. Anyway, so I understand that generational trauma, but I feel like I wasn't raised Jewish, but what happened to my grandfather and my family was always this thing, and it was sort of a big part of my growing up, but also sort of unspoken. And I don't know, I guess having read about that and learned about that and been the one in the family who was we need to talk about this. And I took a trip when I was over in Europe and went to my grandfather's town and explored it to try to get him talking about it. And all this other stuff happened since then. But I don't know, I guess that sort of affects my perception of things too.
Yeah.
It's a different, I don't know, just a different way of looking at it, I guess.
And your grandfather's, that was your Jewish side or your Italian
side?
Yeah.
No. I'm talking about my Jewish grandfather who he just escaped in 1938.
Oh, wow.
And, I've just been thinking about what he went through in Nazi Germany growing up there. Because, he grew up and they left when he was 12. And, he really barely spoke about it. He hardly could talk about it. He just told, a few, funny stories. And it's I don't know. And even I heard my great-grandmother, who my daughter is named after, when she would bring it up and talk about it a little bit to my grandmother, my great-grandfather, and would be didn't shut up.
Oh, interesting.
Not sure. I think he was a sweet guy, but, it was just they didn't want to discuss it. And I understand that. And it just must have been, I don't know. I just can't imagine being, especially a child, being 10, 11.
Yeah. And
you probably live in this town and are... they're your friends, I think, because it wasn't that many Jews in the town. And, I think they're intermingling. And I don't know. But it's just, I don't know. Anyway, sorry, I'm going all over the place
That's
here.
okay. No, it's worth talking about, I just wish there was a rational way of looking at it all, it's just, unfortunately, there's so many impediments to any potential movements towards anything resembling like peace.
I don't know. In some ways, I'm like, maybe can't we just offer, like, let the Palestinians come here, like, do, like, and then let the, Israel have the land? Like, can we do some of that? I don't know.
Yeah, I wish there was something like that.
I mean, that was something. I mean, it is ethnic cleansing, I suppose, but that was something that was proposed by some Jewish lawmakers. I shouldn't say Jewish. Some Israeli lawmakers in
Israel.
Yeah, in the Washington Post article, just saying that other people should, take in the Palestinians, and it's like in some ways it's like, kind of like that's not good, but in some ways it's like just save lives,
Yeah, well, it's just sucks.
And Israeli lives,
but I don't
too,
think
it'll end the conflict.
I don't think the Palestinians would want to go somewhere else, though. I think the whole point is that they want to go where they used to live.
Yeah, I know, but I wonder how much that's part of it anymore, the right of return, if it's quite as potent and big to them as it used to be.
I mean, I think some of whatever deal would happen, some of them would return. They just wouldn't. They wouldn't be able to all return because
right.
It's just so problematic. Well, Hamas needs to go, and so does Netanyahu. So
I know. I wish Hamas could just be like finished already. I really think they have to. They have to plan for afterwards. Like like what happened with. In Europe after the war, or Japan after the war. I mean, you put Germany and Japan on a path to rebuilding, and we helped them rebuild and put them on a path to being sovereign or largely sovereign, except for their militaries, pretty quickly. So it's just like, I don't know.
Was any aspect of Japan, like during the war, was there any like religion part of their like whole belief? Their whole like, did they worship their emperor, or was it all secular?
I think they did worship the emperor to an extent, so it kind of like rocked their world afterwards, I think.
I think religion, the whole zealot thing, there are zealots on both sides for sure. Not to make any equate one side with the other, but that is part of the problem, that whole like idea that like God is telling us we should be there, Like how do you convince someone? Like, we're having our own problems with Trump because people think he's a god, but that's nothing compared to, like,
I know. Religion
Hamas.
And, like, ethno-nationalism, I mean, it's never been good. It never leads to good things, It's never, like, I don't know. But you know what? I also think, though, I feel like, let's say we get to a place in the world where we're not separated by ethnicity or even by religion anymore, then we'll probably figure out something else to fucking argue over, don't you think?
I'm sure. Well, Stalin was
some other reason to kill ourselves. What did Stalin do? What were we going to say?
Oh, he murdered lots of people and didn't believe in God, or people always point to that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
People are just rotten, but
he did murder a lot of people. I think over ethnicity. He murdered a ton of like
true, right, ethnicity,
ethnic minorities, and stuff like that.
Well, that's why people are always like. As bad as Saddam Hussein was, he was secular. So when he got kicked out of there, then all the that's when all hell broke loose of the Sunnis and the.
Which I remember people saying that before the war, like, "Hey, maybe we shouldn't do this because."
Right. Well, now Iran has so much more power ever since Saddam Hussein left.
I know. That's true.
That was probably a mistake. I mean, it was definitely a mistake to go into Iraq.
Massive, unforced error that was.
And
honestly,
many
I think also what Trump did with Iran, I think he's empowered them because of the stupid, we had this big, Obama got all these countries together, right, to contain Iran and to get them not to produce a bomb. And who knows now? And we certainly don't want them to have a bomb. It's not good. It seems like Iran actually is at least scared of war, and they want to avoid a war.
True,
it seems
good
like.
point.
So that's fingers crossed on that.
Yeah. Oy, oy, oy. All right. Well, maybe we should wrap it up. But this has We've hit on a lot.
I know.
It's good.
It just was so much of a thing this week that I was reading about, and I guess it was a little bit more coming to a head. But
I didn't even read on. I didn't even read up on that. I thought maybe people liked Harris more because at least she said stuff.
I feel like I do like her a little more because of that, but it's almost like it lays bare the actual reality of what's going on, and even in the way she sort of said stuff, it was great. If you her logic is just kind of tortured if you think about what she said, but she also says really nice things,
Yeah,
she decries all oh, it's so sad what's going on in Gaza, blah blah blah, but she doesn't say condemn the people who are doing that,
Right.
And she does condemn, rightfully so, Hamas for what they did on October 7th.
She might, maybe they will get into that later, With such a big audience, you don't want to, take big risks, but maybe later
maybe things will change.
I would not be surprised, but my expectations are so low that I don't even expect it. So, but I wonder if they will. Especially if the polling in Michigan isn't great, she'll probably have to say some things about Netanyahu and the way they're waging that war.
I mean, she really this is the thing. I mean, I feel like we would talk badly about the guy, other
Totally.
Sort of fascistic people who are even are our allies or whatever, the hungry guy or
yeah. Well, the weird thing too about Israel is that she may not necessarily even be pandering to Jews. It might be to evangelicals, which of
course. I mean,
so
the amount
she just has to be careful.
Israel supporters of actual Jews is dwarfed by
right.
It's the amount of evangelical supporters of Israel are larger than all the Jews in the world. So
for sure, because of rapture and shit. Yes.
I know. What's so crazy is it's I mean, I don't know that I'd call them all anti-Semites, but I feel like there's a real anti-Semitism underlying the whole fucking rapture thing.
Oh, totally. Well, they're going to hell, man. Unless they accept Jesus. So
I know.
I'm definitely not going to heaven based on
that's not nice.
Evangelicals. Well,
yeah.
Whatever. It's their thing, but
I don't know.
All right.
I don't. Well, yeah. I was going to get into a conversation about God and the Jewish philosopher Spinoza, who I'm a big fan of. You should read him.
I feel like
another day.
Yeah, we'll do it next time. I'll read up on Spinoza.
Yeah, he's great.
Was he from Spain or no?
He was a Sephardic Jew from Portugal.
Oh, Portugal.
He actually, he was Dutch, though. That's where he
basically
lived, was Netherlands.
I did take a few philosophy classes, but I don't remember it.
Yeah, I mean, of course. You'll remember it.
Next time, though. Yeah. All right, Matt, this has been great. And we'll talk soon. And thank you all for listening.
Thanks for listening.
And have a great rest of your summer. We'll see you soon. We'll talk to you soon.